afternoon, everybody. Glad to see everybody that's here. It's nice. We got some people that haven't been here in quite a while. Really glad to see everybody. So let's go ahead and start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're putting this up for our mission statement.
Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time, through service to others.
Jim, got your invitation?
Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, the good earth beneath our feet feeds us all with your great bounty. As we gather here in fellowship, we know there are children in this community and in our world who do not share this bounty. Help us to bring them to our table and fulfill all their needs. Now bless this food to our use and us to your service. Amen.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Larry, for being a greeter today. We got some friends here that haven't been here in quite a while. So, of course, we saw John quite a bit on Zoom meetings. John became an expert at Zoom. So, John, glad to see you in person. John Cully's back. Terry Gadd is back. Terry hasn't been here in, when did you say the last one was?
March of last year when the pandemic hit.
March of 20. So glad to have her back, and everybody else. Who else hasn't been here in a while? I think we got everybody. Chuck, you've got some guests today?
Yes, I have a couple of guests today who are with me. Evan Radcliffe, who is Vice President of the Crawfordsville Masonic Temple Foundation and has been one of the leaders in getting this done. And I have one of the workers that's really done a lot of work, Larry Radcliffe. Larry, stand up. This floor you see here is this baby. He has been working on it for several weeks now, and got it looking good.
Great, glad to have you here. Thank you very, very much for coming by. And I noticed, I think one of the meetings we were here too early, and Larry was out here making messes on the floor and everything, and did a great job. It really looks good. So thanks, Larry. We appreciate it. Any other guests? Okay, just want to make another announcement is to remember to drop a buck in for the Masonic Cornerstone, Masonic Foundation here on the table over there. There's some containers, so they are allowing us to use this place. So let's thank them by dropping that buck in there. So let's keep doing that. I do have some sign-up sheets because we have a little issue in getting people to sign their names on these things. So I've got one for monthly speaker coordinators for next year. So let's pass that around and get that thing signed. I've got one for invocators. We need one for next week. Okay, Char, we'll pass this around. Char will sign for next week, and then just keep that going. And then for breeders, we need some help for breeders. We'll pass that one around and get people to sign up for that. We also are participating in the Tri-Kappa Summer Lunch Program. And on July 20th and July 27th, we need 6 people for each of those days. We've got 3 routes. So I do have it on Portal Buzz, but if you can sign up on this Two, please go ahead and sign up on there so we can get the 6 people for that. Mark, pass that around there.
That takes about a half hour, 45 minutes to do.
Yeah, it's real short. We're just, and it's great to see the kids when you pull up there with the McDonald's Happy Meals. They love them, so let's keep that going. Pop tabs. We got some pop tabs. We had some, Dave Michael brought us 4 today instead of 3. So thanks, Dave. We appreciate it. And boy, I tell you what, Don, you must have really worked hard this week. Yeah. He usually brings 3, and we got a whole bunch more. So thanks, Don. Let's keep that coming. I think last week, with the ones that we had about 24,000. Last week, we're up to about 393,000. So we're 107,000, if my math is right, 107,000 from 500,000. So let's try to get them. We've got till the end of August, so keep them coming, and let's keep the tabs going there. Okay, backpacks. I think I got to everybody. Carolyn, Mark, and Don. Next week is off. We will be doing it, however, on the 26th, so that's still on our calendar. We will be unloading the truck this year again, so we'll be starting that on August 13th. So let's make sure that we have people for that. If you can't get on the Portal Buzz to do that, to sign up, send me an email and I'll get you on there. Terry, you've got the sign-in sheet for today. Anybody that didn't sign the attendance sheet, please sign it. And because I see Larry Parlberg just came in just to try to sneak in without signing it. So Larry, you got to sign it. Okay. Pop can tabs, we already talked about that. So we're at 393,000. We want to keep it going. Any member updates? Anything more on Rusty? Who was telling? Byron? Were you talking about Rusty last week, or?
Yeah, I did. I haven't talked to him recently, but he's going to go into operation on March 14th.
No.
So,
July 14th? July 14th? I was going to say, March 14th is a long...
I'm going in for some other surgery.
Okay. Let's give our prayers for Rusty. Karen is here today. Karen's been having some rough issues with her medical problems, and so let's keep her in our prayers and everybody else. I know Shar is going through some issues. Let's keep everybody in our club in our prayers for keeping going for this year, so they're continuing to do what Kiwanis does. So, a few other things. We talked about, remember to tell someone about our meetings, bring them to our meetings. We've got 2 people here today that we will make sure that we get applications to. Since you're sitting right in front there, see? That's great. I'll tell you what, we love to have new people come in our meetings and tell them a little bit about Kiwanis and what's going on. I always ask people, do you like kids? And most of the time people say yes, but sometimes they tell us something different. But if you like kids, this is the place to be, because we do a lot for kids, and especially we try to keep it in our community. There are some things like with Riley, but even with Riley, we serve, Riley has, in 2019, which was the last figures I saw, there was over 3,000 appointments by children in Montgomery County at Riley Hospital. So Riley does mean a lot to this county and this community, so we do a lot of that. Satellite membership. Okay, Caleb, do you want to talk about satellite membership, or do you want me to do something, or?
No. So, next Thursday, feel free to come to Frank's Mountain at 5:30 to 6:30, by your own, but, we're just gonna do a little something different so that we can open it up to folks who may not be able to make it here. We are all gonna be the same club, so it's not gonna be different. Feel free to come and join in and say hey, and hopefully we'll get a few more members this way.
Yeah, well, the satellite membership program is going to allow us to get more members, number one. And number two, those that can't make it during the day because of work restrictions or something else like that, they can join us at the satellite membership or satellite meetings. Okay, Caleb is handling those right now, but I'm sure we'll move on from there. But what it allows, for example, if you know, Terry's working all day and she can't make it to the Thursday meeting sometimes, okay, she can go to the satellite meetings. If Terry decides, hey, I don't want to attend the regular daytime meetings, I'll go to the other ones, and you'll only be billed once you have to, since a new member, a current member would give us a letter stating that they want to belong to the satellite member group, and they would only be billed for dues, not the meals. Now, if you come to a lunchtime meal, you will be billed for that day, okay, for that meal. However, if you're only coming to the satellite, you'd just be billed for dues, okay? And we don't want to lose everybody from coming to the lunch meetings. These are I guess you could say they're the bread and butter of our club meetings. So those meetings that they have at different areas, whether it be Francis and Mount or the brewery or Caleb's house or whatever, are going to be different. They're not going to be as formal as these, but they will involve service. I'll tell you that. Caleb is already pushing for that. They will involve service. So if you know somebody that can't make the regular club meetings, get their name to Caleb and follow up with that. We'd love to grow our membership by having those people attending those meetings. Okay? So
The goal will be 2 a month right now.
2 meetings a month?
Yeah, those for 2 months. We'll be every other week. So this month, 15th and the 29th. So,
okay. Next thing, Operation Toy Box. We had a lot of fun last year. And we are continuing with Operation Toy Box. We told Dave Long and his group that we would be happy to take that over, and we have taken it over. Dave is going to help us again this year, but we need some volunteers for Operation Toy Box. We need people that will help in writing letters to the sponsors, doing some of the things that need to be done to keep this going. We'll of course need a lot of help, and maybe we can use some of the key clubbers and some of the other groups, but we need a lot of help from the people in this room for the days that we put the toys out and the days that the parents come to get the toys. So prepare for that. We'd like to get a committee started for that, so if there's anybody that wants to work on that committee, please let me know or let Dave know, and we'll move from there. It's a great project to watch these families come in and grab the toys that they want, and as they walk out say, just thank you, because I'm really glad to have this toy under the tree for my son or daughter at Christmas time. That was very important. We had a lot of people that said that to us this past year, so let's keep that going. The Indiana District Convention for Kiwanis is going to be held on August 7th in Carmel. We'd like to have as many people there as we can from this club. So if anybody's interested in attending, it's just a one-day event. And there's 3 of us that I know of so far. So if anybody else wants to, we can carpool, we can do whatever. But let's plan on that meeting on August 7th. Okay, the board of directors last night agreed to donate to the American Cancer Society Relay for Life here in Crawfordsville, and we'll be presenting them a check for $500 today. She will be by here sometime today to pick this up. We had to do it quite quickly because the relay takes place this Saturday. So, and we just got the message last week that they were looking for some support. So we did agree to that last night. History, just a couple of things. And the first one, I guess, 1947, on this day, on July 8th, Jerry, this one's for you. Reports are broadcast that a UFO has crash landed in Roswell, New Mexico. And I'm sure that all of the stuff that came out of the Pentagon talking about all these UFOs defines where they put that thing, and I'm sure it's around in secret, right?
How do you know it's true? It's on the internet.
It was broadcast, it was on the radio. So, you know, in 1969, on July 8th, the U.S. troop withdrawal began in Vietnam. So another big day in history. And other big days in history, we've got Kiwanis birthdays this week. July 12th, our president-elect, Caleb. Happy birthday, Caleb. And July 14th, John Capper. So we've got 2 birthdays this week, so if you see them, wish them a happy birthday. Things to do in Montgomery County this weekend. July 9th, there's another concert and food festival at Pike Place. That's Saturday. That's sponsored by HHSB, isn't it?
It is, it's Friday, yeah.
Friday, I'm sorry. Yeah, sponsored by Hoosier Heartland. So go out there, enjoy the music, and have fun. Saturday is Crawfordsville Farmers Market. And then coming up here on July 16th and 22nd is the county fair, the 4-H fair. So plan on enjoying that. National days. Today's Be a Kid Again today. So we can all be kids. We can all be as old as Karen, or as young as Karen.
I might not be the youngest one here, but
Yeah, see? And it's also Coca-Cola Day today. The guy that invented Coca-Cola was born today, so that's why it's Coca-Cola Day. It's Math 2.0 Day. So I have no idea, but it's 2.0. So let's figure out what kind of math they do for that. National Ice Cream Sundae Day. You know, we need to make sure we tell Linda about these days in advance so we make sure we can get, on those days, we can get sundaes or popsicles or whatever. She's back there not listening to me. So, happy bucks. Who's happy? Who's happy? Shara.
Yeah, I'm happy that this morning I feel so much better than I did yesterday, and thank you, Sharon, for stepping up and doing our limits. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jim.
I'm happy I did not get wet delivering meals today at Meals on Wheels.
Good. Chuck.
I'm happy you're all here to hear about this wonderful building that we're going to try and get renovated.
Good. Who else? Matt.
I'm happy that our remodeling of our kitchen is about complete.
Good. Good. So when's the party? Matt?
What?
When's the party? You know how I asked the question and he just completely pretended he didn't hear it?
No, I was asked another question.
Oh, so Joe's interrupting me.
Well, we didn't know you were going to continue to ask us. What was your question?
When's the party?
When's the party?
Yeah. Now it's got kitchen transition done?
I think August the 1st and 2nd, when our son comes from Colorado to visit.
Good, okay. Who else? Jerry?
I'm happy to be out of the brace in my hand, and I'm gradually getting the range of motion back. And also happy to have water back in our house. The well pump went out on Saturday morning, and so we had no water Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But it's back, so that's a good thing.
It's a great time to have water out right during holiday weekend. Who else? Anybody else? Okay, I'll throw 5 in for Pam's promise, and hope we can make a decent donation to Pam's promise. So, what else? Okay, Chuck, I think you've got an introduction to make.
I want to tell you just a little bit about our speaker today and how I came to know her. About 15 years ago or so, my wife and I decided that we needed to move to a different house and that we should build this house. Going back lots of years ago, I went to the University of Illinois, and one of my fraternity brothers, whose name is familiar around town, Chuck Akers, had an architectural firm here. Well, by the time I got around to building, Chuck had retired. But I thought, well, I'll start by calling the firm that still exists and see if they'll help me. Well, this guy answered the phone and said, no, we don't do private homes. We do churches and things like that. So, but then he went right on to say in the next breath, but my wife is an architect in private practice, and she would be very happy to do your home. And that's how I got acquainted with Judy Kleine, architect, who is also one of the people on the board of the Crawfordsville Masonic Temple Foundation, and is in charge of all the things that need to be done to this building. So, without further ado, Judy.
It's pretty sneaky.
Hi, everybody. Like you said, I'm Judy Kleine. I'm the insane person who's been working on this building now for over, well, this is the 8th year. It started in 2014 when John Phillips, who then was the worshipful master, some people have met him here. He said they got a hold of Indiana Landmarks and Indiana because they were having a problem finding funding to do some of the projects they needed to do here. So Indiana Landmarks gave them a grant so they could hire somebody who could do a rehabilitation study for them. And I got the call, lucky me. But I've always been really interested in historic buildings, even when I was a little kid. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I was in 2nd grade, we moved to Crawfordsville. Crawfordsville has some really pretty old buildings. Several of them aren't here anymore. And so we're trying to save this one so it stays here. I'm trying to think, what else? Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. So Freemasonry in Montgomery County actually started 177 years ago. They formed their, I don't know what you call it. I can't think of the name.
Lodge.
Yes, their lodge. But they formed this lodge 177 years ago. It started in Indiana in 1818, and here in 1844 they were given a charter. There's some pretty big names in Montgomery County who were part of the lodge. Go ahead and flip to the next one. including these three, Harvey Hazelrig. If you've heard of the town of Hazelrig, that's his. He actually came to Indiana and Boone County, had 240 acres. And he used to ride a horse here for every meeting, 40 miles. He was religious about it, so he was like the Masonry zealot. Isaac Naylor was self-educated because his family moved a lot and he worked on the farm. He said he grew up learning how to chop logs and do everything else. He said that was his physical education that started at age 6. He ended up teaching himself a lot of things and actually did things like would ride the riverboat down the Mississippi and then walk back to get the money so that he could pay a tutor to teach him Latin. He ended up studying for the law and was a judge here in Montgomery County for years and years. Very prominent citizen. Everybody knows Colonel Isaac Elston, right? At least I hope so if you're from around here. Next slide. There it is. Anybody not know General Luke Wallace? He was also very big in this. General Mahlon Manson. The funny thing is those two, there are 5 Civil War generals from Montgomery County, which is a very high number. Those two were kind of rivals. And yeah, Mahlon would always say things like, well, I worked for my generalship, how'd you get yours type thing. But they had that. And Major Lucian Foote actually was, all of those guys were very involved in politics and everything else. Go to the next one. So their first lodge building was actually on the corner of Washington and Market Streets. Anybody who's been around here for a while, remember where the Roslyn Bakery was? That's where it was. And across the street, the old Commerce building that's gone now. The 3rd floor had the Royal Arch Masons, which was the Black Masons. They had their meetings on the 3rd floor. Okay, next slide. Their second home was across the street from Lucian Foote's building. He had the corner bookstore there across the street, which is now where the community center or the community foundation is. That's where their second building was. They were there for a while. And then we're number 3 right here. Go ahead, next one. Okay. Some interesting things about this particular site, something I found out recently that I thought was pretty cool. This particular property at the time was called the Park House Corner because there was an inn here called the Park House Inn. And the Masons bought this piece of property for $4,000 in 1898, I believe it was. And when the building was being torn down, they actually found a body in the basement, but the sheriff happened to be out of town. So when the sheriff got back in town, there was no body to be found, and they kept working because they knew if they, I don't know, didn't get rid of it or whatever, they knew they would be stuck and couldn't keep moving. So yeah, there's a great history here, right? So this building here, there was a lot of write-ups in the newspaper about it. There was a lot of information out about it because Boo Wallace was involved, among other people. And my understanding is there were 10 iterations of the plans for this building. My guess is the architect was ready to kill some people because they couldn't make up their mind how they wanted it. All they wanted is they wanted the fanciest, nicest building in the whole state of Indiana at the time. And they made sure that they actually had the second fanciest one. The one in the state is nicer, but that's the only one at that time. Yeah. This building was big news throughout the state. Some of these pictures on here are actually from the Indianapolis papers. And people would come from Indianapolis to check it out, to see what was going on. This was started in 1901, the building was, and right after this started in September of 1901, across the street, the Carnegie Library was started too. They had the same architect, graduate from Wabash, blah, blah, blah. So he basically just kept walking back and forth across the street. And they were trying to have a competition to see who had the tallest building out of the two. Ours was finished last, so ours was taller. So, but they have the same similar thing, okay? So interestingly, if you see in the slide, this main part of the building here, this rectangle, which is 70 by 125 by 50 feet high, is historically noted as a two-story building, but it has 10 level changes. The first brick was laid September 3rd, 1901 by A.F. Ramsey, who was the building committee chairman. These are masons here, a lot of them knew how to do this. The cornerstone was laid on October 31st, 1901, and the governor came to dedicate it. The Masons I've found were always big into having big parties and community events and everything else. They like doing that. We know for a fact that the Carnegie Library project across the street was started after the Masonic Temple's first brick was laid, and the Masonic Temple was finished after the July 29, 1902 dedication of the Carnegie Library. It was probably finished in late 1902 or early 1903. The Masons expected to spend $32,000 on the building as of April 1902. However, the property in the building was completed at the cost of $50,000. In 2014, when I did the rehabilitation study, I basically figured out, okay, what is $32,000 in 1902, 1904 money? What kind of money is that in 2014? It equaled about $1.4 million. And that's not including, that's just for inflation only. That's not including what it would actually cost to replace this structure as it is. The building was dedicated in May 27th, 1904, the 60th anniversary of the founding of Masonry. That was an intentional by the Masons. Again, they had a big parade and ceremonies. One of the masters of ceremony was Lew Wallace, and he gave a speech up there on that balcony to everybody. And so maybe one day we'll reenact that, who knows. But the kitchen and theater portion of it, up above here is the theater, and it was always there, and they had a small stage on it. They called it the assembly room or the little theater. When the kitchen was added on, they actually added a huge stage area up there and extended the theater a little bit to make it more of a grand theater that we hope to revitalize at some point. Okay? Historic rehabilitation study. Just a few things about that. Yeah. 65 hours to fully photograph and measure this building. I had help from my son at the time. He started helping me do measures and stuff when he was about 12. And yeah, he was just so sick of this place and crawling over every inch of it with me. It was not funny. We took over 2,085 digital pictures of it, documenting how it was in 2014. 89.5 hours. After doing all those measures, that's how long it took me to draw up the base plans for this. 8 hours was spent on the grand staircase alone, because you had to measure each side. It's an unusual shape. All the stuff back then was made by hand, so nothing was the same size, including none of the windows, because we measured every window. There's 112 windows in this building, and every one of them, there's only like 4 or 5 that are the same size. I thought I was going to go insane, but...
Did you have access to the original plans at all?
No. No original plans could be found. I went on an extensive search. I wished they were around. That would have been really nice. That would have saved me about 1,000 hours, I think. Yeah. Go to the next one. This is a neoclassical style. Some people call it Renaissance Revival. That's an older, Renaissance Revival is an older name for it. Through the years, they've actually taken some classifications like Renaissance Revival and given it several more names to kind of break it down a little bit more. But This is it. It used a lot of Greek and Roman elements, has monumental portions and everything else. The interesting thing about the architect here is that after he was done in Crawfordsville, he actually started working in Crawfordsville long before this building was started, and he worked in Crawfordsville through the 20s. But during that time, he ended up going to Indianapolis and doing work for the government. He actually did some work for like Michigan City prisons. He's done a lot of churches and all kinds of stuff. But after that, in 1920, he actually went to Washington, D.C. and worked for the government there and worked on the buildings. And this type of building is considered a high-style government-type structure. And I think that's why he went on to Washington, D.C., because they liked the fact this type of building that he did a lot of, they wanted there. Let's go to the next one. Some things you have to realize about this period of time is the large majority of buildings in Crawfordsville occurred from 1880 to 1920, okay? They said 70% of the buildings in the Crawfordsville Commercial Historic District were constructed during that period of time. Many of the finest buildings were built between 1900 and 1920. That's where we fall in here. Yeah. You need to realize also that Crawfordsville grew exponentially. In 1860, there was only 2,000 residents that lived here. By 1880, it was 5,200. And by 1920, the population had increased to over 10,000. So they had a big boom because the railroad expanded. They also were able to get materials here from the river. But this area is known for producing bricks, wire, fencing, matches, furniture, coffins was a specialty here, staves and barrels, and corrugated metal culverts. Those were all things that were, before 1920, products that were built in this area so that people, people came because there was work here and there was a lot of industry, and they shipped it out to a lot of different places. Go to the next one. Let's see what we have there. This is from the National Register application that was done in 1991, the Chamber of Commerce. So in 1986, Indiana Historic Landmarks did the Montgomery County interim report. And what that did is it told everybody, okay, here are the neat buildings in our area, and here's the one that they considered outstanding examples of architecture, which this building is considered an outstanding example of architecture. And then with that report in 1991, Chamber of Commerce hired a historian who filed an application for the Crawfordsville Commercial Historic District. And that's where we are today. We're actually on the south edge of that, and we're one of two buildings that were considered fraternal organizations. The other building is the Benper building. It was considered a fraternal organization also, even though it was in insurance and all that stuff. Let's go to the next one. This is where we are today. So from 2014 and beyond, in 2015, me and John and Brian Montz, those are two Masons, were trying to get community involved in working on this building, because at that time I just said, you know guys, if you don't start working on some of this, you're going to start losing parts of the building. And so we ended up forming a nonprofit trying to get funding to pay for some of this, which we didn't have much luck at. So in 2019, we started to go into negotiation with the Masons, because we found that even as a nonprofit group, we could not get funding to do work on this building primarily because we didn't own the building. And in 2019, the Masons have pretty much given up. They said, well, we may move somewhere else, or we may give the building to somebody else. And I mean, they've tried all avenues. So they finally deeded the building to the Crawfordsville Masonic Temple Foundation with the intention of that as a foundation, and because we're a 501c3, we can save the building. Then COVID hit, which made things a little messy. But, so during that period of time, we've rebranded the building. It's now called the Masonic Cornerstone Grand Hall and Event Center. And we just, basically, we are trying to find ways to save the building. So we have a few things that we do here. Why don't you go to the next slide? Our first focus is repairing the structure to extend the usefulness of it. A lot of people consider masonry permanent, and it is to a point. Back in the day when this was built, and before anything before 1930, they used a historic mortar, which was lime-based, and their masonry back then was a softer. And if you use the harder mortars of today, they basically would start breaking the bricks and stuff. But also the water can get in behind. This is actually a picture of the front portico before some of the limestone was repaired. And it was all a result of water getting into the joints that were failing and all from the road salts getting up against the limestone. So that part has been repaired to a point. We still have a few things that need to be done up there. If you ask me how many projects we have here, I'd say about 3,000. You can pick one if you want to help us, great. So next picture, next slides. I just want to show you some of the pictures. We actually had a roofer here a few weeks ago, and he stuck his fingers in between the brick and he got down to his second knuckle. So we've actually been working on some of the masonry and replacing that mortar. The lime mortars actually are very good, but they only last 100 years, and this building is 120 years old. And if it's not taken care of, you start losing your masonry. Next to that one is actually some metal siding that's over our fly space up there. That area is really deteriorated. There's a lot of water that can get in there, and we're looking at replacing that siding. In the corner there, that's just a corner of our roof. We were having a small party because Montgomery County Community Foundation did a matching grant for us. We met the match recently, so we've already paid our deposit and our roof is finally going to be replaced. So we're all doing a happy dance around here about that. The nice thing is, I mean, one project out of our 3,000 is going to be done soon. And we're sitting here going, okay, we've got so many more to do. But the nice thing about that is we've had so much community involvement, and that's why we made our match. Community involvement, and we've been working really hard with fundraisers and like. The picture down the bottom left is actually some of the guys were welding the pieces together for our hood in here. The hood is operational to a point. There used to be an old Type B hood in there, which just was a fan. And that's what we still have there. We're working on getting the permitting for our ANSEL system so that this is going to be a full-blown, everybody can use, It's basically a Type A hood so that we can have a full commercial kitchen. There's also, in the next picture over, it's hard to see, down in our basement and crawl space area, some of the guys replacing plumbing. On a regular basis, we have this old black pipe split, becomes a real mess downstairs, and I've been putting plastic in periodically. And also the last picture was one of our board members and his dad when we started scraping the doors for the front of the building. When we were scraping it, we found, I think it was 11 layers of paint on the doors. And we had a piece of hardware that broke. The exterior hardware was cast iron. The interiors were all brass. We actually took from the interior of the south door over here, the brass one, and took it and put it on the outside of that door. As you know, that door is locked right now because we basically have taken the doors off the rest of the way, stripped them down. Larry did some puttying on the wood because there's some serious chunks out of sections of those old doors. Those are original. And then they're going to be repainted and put back up, and hopefully for another 20 years we won't have to deal with them anymore, and they'll look pretty for a change. Okay, next one. Our second focus is to take underutilized spaces and make them assets to the community. In other words, in the history of this building, this floor has always been a community floor. Even when I was a kid, though, it appeared to be a closed building, but I keep being told by these Masons, no, it's never been closed and all that, but it appeared to be. So during World War II, the Red Cross, well, World War I and World War II, the Red Cross actually had access to the parlors and they would do their work there. Anybody who was a serviceman home on leave, they were allowed to come in here. Before the kitchen was added on, if you wanted food, you went up to the mezzanine, and there's a dumbwaiter that went down to the kitchen in the basement. And they served food to people who came, servicemen and all, all their members and stuff here. After the kitchen was added on, they abandoned the kitchen in the basement. The dumbwaiter stayed for several years. It's kind of there on a few floors here, but it's not all there anymore. We also want to make the upper rooms accessible and usable. One of our future projects, our first one after the roof is done, is we're going to try to finish some of the masonry work so that we don't have the water keep coming in. And we're going to basically repairing windows as we go and doors. But then we're going to upgrade our electrical to 3-phase so we can put in an elevator. Other than people wanting us to refurbish the theater, the elevator is number 2. Theater is number 1. That's what we hear most about. We also are planning on taking some rooms up there. There's a York Rite room that's not used anymore and making it a small room if you want to have a piano recital or whatever. The idea is this is a community building and we want the community to use it, just like we want you guys to come here on Thursdays and use the building. Okay? We want to take the existing parlors and use them for meetings, art exhibits. Whenever there's a really large banquet, they can actually serve people down the hall, and people can eat in either banquet room or in either parlor or in this banquet room. The future theater, not only being used for theater productions, but I want downtown movies back. Anybody else on that? Okay. It can also be used for weddings. And we actually have the grassy area that's beside the building there. That area there, we've talked for years about that, making that an outdoor reading garden. We're going to basically put some pavement in and have a place where we'll have some tables set out there and everything else. Next one. Some of our projects here. These look familiar to you, Larry?
Painfully so.
Yeah. So our board consists of, what are we now, 13, 12? I can't.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And our board members are so committed to this building. A lot of them have put personal time in on this. And we actually have for some of our grants, we put down how many hours has your board been involved in. It's just amazing to me the number of hours we've been involved. Our board members have come for work days to prep walls for painting. Larry has been working on this floor for months and done a phenomenal job. He's our expert woodworker, and he'll never get away from here at this rate. There's also areas that have a lot of plaster damage, but there's no reason to fix that until we get the moisture problems fixed. And that includes our roof, which is major, but also until we fix the mortar through, because a lot of that on the walls is moisture coming through where the mortar is no more. So, Yvonne got a hold of Buzzy Kid, and they came and donated the painting in our Grand Hall area. And the idea is to just keep moving and keep, like this room has some rough things on it. I found through the notes the last time this room was painted was over 20 years ago. And that's why it's looking a little rough. It gets a lot of use. And Jen, one of our board members, has been working on the doors, but she also took the hardware, and we had a piece of hardware back there that looks absolutely beautiful. She's cleaning the hardware so it looks more like the original brass. And Larry has actually taken some of the old fixtures that are upstairs and cleaned those up and made them operational. The original fixtures in this building were two types. One of them had the gas that went up, and then it had the electric, because at the time, the electric wasn't very reliable, but the gas was. So those fixtures, a lot of them have a Masonic symbol on it too. I'm ready for the next one. We're almost done. Okay, how do we raise funds? Any way we can. We actually apply for a lot of grants. We have 2 people, actually there's 3 on our board who specifically work on grants. I'm one of those. We've gotten some grants through the Community Foundation. We've been going through SIA and a few others. We're actually trying to work on an Okra grant, but we know that some of those grants we have to have a match. So we've been going through a lot of grant writing to try to get some of these projects done. We do rentals, obviously, weddings, whatever, graduation parties, we can do. We also do fundraisers, like we had an open mic night, and then there was the Festival of Trees, and there's somebody in that picture who looks familiar here. Yeah. We had a night with Santa, which was very highly attended, and the kids loved it because a lot of parents said last year they couldn't find anywhere where Santa was. And so Santa sat in another chair, and it was kind of cute watching it. But we also have done raffle. We just raffled off an 2021 ATV. I was really disappointed I couldn't win it, but hey. So the picture of the person holding the raffle tickets is our building manager. She basically coordinates all the events and everything, and she's constantly telling us, we need to do this because we need to make it look better. We need to do this because we want to pretty things up. So we've been slowly working through the list. And we obviously accept donations of any kind, cash, check, personal, whatever. Stocks, bonds, we'll take it. Next. It's an express goal of historic preservation to protect and preserve the materials and features and convey the significance of the history of the place. That's what we're trying to do too. Everybody on our board is 100% in to save this building, and we've been working very hard to do that, trying to make it a place where everybody can use. If you want to help us, great. You can donate time to be on our board, donate your skills. Larry could probably use some help on the wood, among other things. There's plenty of painting to do, all kinds of things. We've got a plaster repair, or you can donate financially. Okay, anybody have any questions?
When are we doing?
Depends on the funding. If somebody wins the lottery and gives it all to us now, it could be quick, but otherwise it's going to be a while.
I was just going to say, you probably are so close because you don't see the progress, but it has improved so much over the last few years. It's phenomenal how nice it does look, even though some of it is
Yeah.
probably triage.
Yeah.
The improvement is tremendous.
Yeah, and There is a lot of work that we have done, and it's good to know that we can see that, but there is so much more to do. When I did the study in 2014, basically at that time, we were estimating the cost to do all the repairs that we needed was going to be about $1.8 million. That's closer to $3 million now to do everything we need to do. Just to fix the masonry alone, it's over $300,000. Our roof, we did some masonry repair up there before the roof comes off and gets replaced. Our roof with that masonry repair is over $120,000. So the roof itself was like, it was $90,000. So it's just like, you know, it just keeps going and going and going. So that's why I tease and say, feel free to donate anytime. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to do. We're just basically chipping away a little at a time. And hopefully, we're hoping before August. Our next big event is the end of August, the kids resale. Is that when it is?
Yes.
Yeah. That one, before that's done, we want to have our doors finished. The front doors and these south doors that we haven't started on yet. We're required by the local fire inspectors to put painted cardboard on our south doors. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. We don't have to put them on the front door, but we have to put them on the south door that never gets used. And if anybody crashes out that door, they're going to go down those carriage steps and break their leg. Okay, we can do that. But we're also going to, when we fix that one, we have to put a new landing in and everything else, because those doors to go out of them and in an emergency would be pretty fatal for somebody. Probably me. I'd be the one tripping out first. Any other questions? Can't think of anything. Okay.
Judy, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. It's a very beautiful place, and I really like it. And
it's going to be fabulous. Every day it gets a little better.
Great. I think if anybody hasn't had a tour of this place, you need to take a tour. It's amazing to see the upstairs and what's in here. Only been here a short time, but to see this place, it's amazing what it is. So,
anybody wants to take a tour afterwards, I'd be glad to take you upstairs. And then in 2 or 3, 10 years, we'll go back up again and you can see how much better it was.
There you go. Okay, you got a choice here. You got a chance to pick out the winning ticket for our...
Supposed to pick Chuck's number, right?
Yeah, that's what he told me. Okay, so, you picked out 2.
Did I?
So give me which one?
I don't know. How about that one?
There you go. Okay, you can put that one back in there. Okay. And the amount today for the marble game, we had $402. We got $30 today, so it's $432. Is that the same number you got, Sharon?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure I got Okay, and the number is 502-520. Who's got it? 502-520. You've got it? Again? Okay. Come on up. No, come on up. All you're going to do is pick out a marble. 502-520. Okay, and we have, I believe it's 41 marbles left. Let's see the ticket. Let me make sure. Okay. You notice that was right next to mine.
Well, that's because you sold those to me.
Oh, okay. So we got 1 white marble in there, we got 41 marbles, and if she picks out the white marble, she gets half of the pot of $432.
You could have a little boat or something reach. Green again.
Green, okay. So that goes back in and goes into our used marbles, and the number of marbles goes down next week. So Caleb, you gotta track all of that next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next meeting will be July 15th, And we'll be hearing from Ellen Simpson from Fish. And he's going to tell us a little bit about how Fish is going and what's all going with that. So positive thought of the day, practice kindness all day to everybody, and you'll realize you're already in heaven now. So thank you all very much. Meeting's adjourned.